So let's have a look at the teams.
So New Zealand opting for Folau at goal shooter. She's having an amazing time at the moment. Her shooting is brilliant. That combination with Selby and Folau, trying to develop that. I'm also interested in Rore playing at wing defence again. She was under an injury cloud coming into this competition, and she's actually doing really well. Also playing in quite an unfamiliar position at wing defence.
Well, Singapore, they will be looking to their captain, Charmaine So, who is there at goal attack. She is their leading light. She's playing her 106th test today, and they shall be looking for her. She's been partnering with Shin Yi Tan, just her 7th test, so certainly the leading the less experienced player in that shooting circle. And I think you'll probably expect a lot of changes from Natalie Milicic. I know in games so far she's been putting out all her players as much as she can and just giving this team of hers as much as experience as can be gleaned on this world stage. As I mentioned earlier, these two teams have not met since 1975. And they'll be very glad that this time round, they're inside. Finishing touches for the shoelaces. Good crowd in at M&S Bank Arena as Laura Langman, New Zealand skipper, waits for the ball. And it's been interesting seeing the changes made by Nolene Taurua, all planned.
An interesting height matchup there for Selby Rickett and Tao.
So teams ready and raring to go. Moments away. Game 1, day 3, Netball World Cup 2019. Silver Ferns underway against Singapore. This is their final game for both these teams in the preliminary rounds. And again, a different combination for New Zealand. And Amma, I'm sure that's what most of the coaches are going to be doing in these early stages, isn't it? Mixing it up.
Yeah, definitely, and I think giving a nod for starting positions for people who don't necessarily start games, and just making sure that everybody is seasoned into the competition in case you need them, but also you never know what's going to come up with other teams, so you want to season some relationships between players.
Our first glimpse of Karen Berger in the defensive circle at these games.
Contact.
Strong rebound from Jane Watson. Berger played most of her netball this year at wing defence. I think Taurua just wanting to jiggle all the players around, see which combinations work, which ones don't.
Contact, advantage offside.
Brave pass by Selby Rickett.
It was a brave pass, but I think confidence. This team have played together, and so they'll have trained a lot, and so I think you can do that when you know your player's going to be there, they're strong, and they're going to take that ball.
Vantage break, goal attack.
Palau again, back and goal shoot, held ball. So just remember, players have only 3 seconds
Instruction centre, ball turn.
to take the ball and get rid of it. Singapore hugging the sideline. So goes all the way back to the transverse. Good patient build-up here from Singapore.
New Zealand.
Not falling this time for So.
New Zealand having an amazingly fast transition through court. Singapore will work to try and slow that down. The faster the ball comes down, the more difficult it is for your defenders, goalkeeper and goal defence in the back.
That's good decision-making from Papa Selby Rickett. Often not loath to take those longer shots, but opting for the tip to Palau. And here come the Ferns again.
I think Gina Crampton will be pleased to get that tip and pick up. Attackers always wanted to pick up interceptions.
And look, she's not the tallest player on court, is she? But she went high. Interesting battle for that wing attack position for the Ferns. Obviously Gina Crampton, Shannon Saunders. We saw yesterday Bailey Nez at wing attack. Another option.
And I think in a world tournament, it's really important to have options just because of injuries, of changing up against different teams. So Taurua just practicing and seeing what she's got available to her.
Come and go. Wing attack for Singapore, but again, Singapore simply can't breach the New Zealand defence. Nice bounce.
Great timing of that move for Folau.
Interesting, it is often the close ones that Folau misses. We saw that, I think yesterday, was it from one of the Barbados shooters? She was just throwing them in from the outskirts of the shooting circle. Nice close one, missed it.
A more comfortable one there. Maria's comfort zone slightly further out of the circle there.
7-0, New Zealand lead early in the first quarter. The score last time these sides met, 64-17. They did play the year before that, and it was 117-9.
I think the thing for Singapore is here, they will want to match or better the scores that they've had previously, so they need to try and get points on the board, and a 7-0 scoreline 5 minutes into a quarter isn't the results that you want to see.
Here's Natalie Milicic on the left of your screen, a New Zealander, been coaching in Singapore for a couple of years now, following in the footsteps of Ruth Aiken, who took Singapore to the last World Cup in Sydney, having stepped down from the New Zealand Silver Fern job.
I was looking at Milicic during the New Zealand anthem. I always find it interesting to see coaches from a foreign country working in another country will sing the anthem. I didn't see her singing, but maybe in her head she was singing deep down.
Was Dan Ryan singing the Northern Ireland anthem yesterday, I wonder, or the day before, I should say?
I did notice Gail Tarata was singing the Scottish anthem, and I actually have respect for that, because an anthem, it's a passionate thing, and you take it from the heart, and she was singing it with gusto and pride, and I was really, really impressed to see that.
Well, I think she's very much made her home in Scotland. She's been there a few years now. And Singapore on the board, and they get a big cheer. So just over 5 minutes to score.
Interesting, as much as you might think that New Zealand will dominate Singapore, they are actually having to play it back to the line just a few times. A couple of times Selby Rickett has had to play it back instead of having someone available in the front. So New Zealand will have to work on that. If they're going to come up against, they are going to come up against tougher teams. They need to be able to have forward options as well as back options.
I'm sure the worst thing you can do as a higher ranked team is take the lower for granted, as well as being disrespectful. You can get yourself into trouble.
You can definitely, but Taurua mentioned before the game that they are respecting every opposition, so they're not going to take this lightly, but it's also quite difficult. I think when you're used to playing really intense pressure games with lots of physical pressure, it's difficult to play against a team that aren't used to that.
Contact on the arm after
Watson
release.
called.
Advantage goal.
Second goal for Singapore. Shinyi Tan does the honours.
Goal extra shooter. Penalty.
This is good for Singapore.
Yeah, a bit of miscommunication there between Selby Rickett and Crampton, and we'll see if Singapore can capitalise on this, not just their score a little.
Now that's nice looking down court by Singapore. Oh, yes!
Wow, I'm actually just impressed that she had the confidence to do a layup shot. Unfortunately, it didn't come off, but great confidence in the shooting.
And I would imagine those are the sort of things that Singapore, at an event like this, want to try. As Milicic said before the game, you know, they don't get on this world stage often. They don't get to play the likes of New Zealand often. So have a go.
Definitely, and I think one of the key things is some of these girls will be watching these Silver Ferns playing in their club competitions in New Zealand, and they'll be in awe of them. And so to step onto the same court, a great take there, and just confidence to do that layup. I think Watson will be pleased that it didn't go in. But yeah, watching these players, almost looking up to them, and so to get on the same court as them is amazing for these Singaporean girls, and hopefully they will build with confidence as the game goes on and do better and better.
And that was great control from So, did the big lunge, and then came back. No problem.
New Zealand.
Oh, tough for Singapore.
New Zealand. This side, this side. Vantage obstruction, wing attack.
Berger just drawing across the court, then pulling the centre of Laura Langman and leaving her available in the middle of the court to take the ball from Rore.
Oh, beautiful draw by Falau.
Shooting practice for Falau.
Numbers for Falau so far in this game, 9 from 10. Oh, good defence by Singapore, no way through. Sindhu Nair doing a good job at goal keep.
Great swing in the ball there from New Zealand. The Singaporean defence did really well, covering the front, but Crampton there just swinging the ball back to the top for Langman to find the space in the back of the New Zealand goal circle.
Melody Tao just weighing up where to send that ball now. She's got the same decision to make again. That's what she was waiting for.
Oh my goodness, that was confidence, that great ball from Tiao. Unfortunately, Tan unable to put it away. Watson with an amazingly timed tip on that shot. Brilliant netball.
And that was great from Tiao, because you could see she was wanting to do it the first time. Couldn't get it away. Got it away the second time. And this is the fine result. Watch this.
Beautiful long bomb under the post. Also amazing there from Watson. I must point out, it is so difficult to tip a shot, and at that crucial moment, when a country's launched the ball from the centre third underneath the post, as a defender you're worried, but Watson, she covered it.
So the contact call against Falau, and I'm sure New Zealand would have watched or seen some of the data from the Australian game yesterday, where Terence Peart was very tough on contact in that shooting circle. They needed to adjust.
Goal defence, Tao for Singapore is playing a crucial role in the mid-court for Singapore. She's the go-to backup girl, bringing the ball through court. And as we've seen, that's the second long ball that she's done. So she's confident to let that ball go, and she's looking above the New Zealand defence.
Just a shame, letting Singapore down on that occasion. Torua. The hopes of New Zealand netball resting on her shoulders. Here she goes again. Oh, that's a beauty. So big support here for Singapore. Not sure
Contact, wing attack, penalty.
what the call was there, but Singapore back in possession. Final 4 minutes of this first quarter. 14-4, New Zealand lead. But Singapore being inventive in their passing from the back.
New Zealand are actually putting on a zone, so they're covering space in the court. They're not running directly on their direct opponents, and it's a difficult thing to work through. And I imagine Milicic has gone through that with their players, with her experience being a New Zealander. And it's about timing, popping through, making sure you come through cleanly to take the ball, so that the New Zealand players can't come and get those interceptions from you.
I'm pretty sure Nat Milicic will have coached some of these New Zealand players, particularly the likes of Karen Berger for one.
Breaking wing defence.
15-4, New Zealand over Singapore. Just over 3 minutes remaining in this first quarter.
Over.
This is the woman, Melody Tiao, 52nd test for the goal defence today. So she's played a bit of netball. It looks like it too. Oh, off the leg of Berger. And away come the Ferns again. Crampton to Langman and back. Falau not wanting it there.
I'm not sure if maybe Folau there was just practicing for the future. Potentially in the future she might not want to take that shot or might not be in a position, so send it back, reset and build again.
%100% record today so far for Tapaya Selby-Rickett. She's had good shooting numbers this week in Liverpool. Oh, just missed it.
It was great vision there from Nair, great timing. Unfortunately, just that bit too short, but a great aerial play from her. Hopefully she'll come out and keep doing more of those, because Singapore will need all the ball that they can get.
Nice from Rore, just getting the tip and making it come off the Singaporean player. Down the sideline come the Ferns.
Great shot there from Selby-Rickett. Tiao and Nair coming in at 5'9" and 5'8", compared to Selby-Rickett's 6'2", so approximately 6 inches difference in there, and I think she's using her height well, but Nair and Tiao trying to play off the body, covering the space and hopefully getting a few extra steps to try and run and jump at the ball.
Well, there's not much you can do against that sort of shooting. Amora Boise, you've had to deal with that shot a few times in the past.
I have, it's a thankless task. Usually with shooters, they like to shoot closer to the post, and so you get in front of them, between the ball and them, trying to push them back. You get behind them, trying to push them away from the post. But with Folau, she loves shooting from the outside, and so it's a difficult ask of what to do.
Big cheer as Singapore gets goal number 5.
Offside, wing attack, free pass, goal third.
So come and go, puts her hand up, going where she can.
On court, look at the umpire, goal third.
So Langman comes up to take the pass.
There's that 6'2" frame, lifting the ball just out of Nair's reach.
Charmaine So. Berger went for it, but missed.
2 seconds on the clock and she scored.
Oh, no luck. You can see the slump of the shoulders from Shin Yi Tan. That is the end of the first quarter. New Zealand leading Singapore 25. As the teams return to court. And you can see certainly a change from the New Zealand point of view. Shannon Saunders on at centre. Bailey Mears on at goal shoot. And Phoenix Karaka at goal keep. Underway in the second quarter. 20-5. New Zealand leading the Singaporean side. And again, Noeline Taurua just making the changes. Bailey Mears missed the first game, or didn't miss it, just didn't play the first game. Had a good run yesterday. Interesting too, she had 3 quarters at goal shoot and then popped out to wing attack.
Yeah, I think Mears is a very versatile player. She's so athletic, so fit. She actually would be the #1 pick for me to come to a tournament, just because she can play any position. Netball is all about passing and catching. She can pass and catch, but she's got that athletic ability. Defensively, when she's attacking, she is brilliant. And so, for me, she's a great tournament player.
And the one change for Singapore. Shawala Rashid coming on at centre, and Chui Kok into the bench.
Great connection there between Saunders and Mears. A 1-2 give and go. Getting closer to the post to put that shot up. And I think Mears here is just showing her athleticism. She's dominating. Folau almost taking a little back seat whilst Mears, it's the Mears show.
Well, Mears is career has been well documented, hasn't it? It's, well, roller coaster, probably best description, but wonderful, and that's great from Phoenix Karaka, another player who has been, you know, in vogue and then out, forced her way back into selection for this team.
Yeah, and I think it's a really difficult thing, selection, and as you mentioned, Mez has been in vogue, out of vogue. She's never lost that athleticism and that ability. Sometimes I think lacking in confidence, but she's doing really well now, and I think any coach just giving her confidence, psychologically supporting her, and she works wonders for the team.
Short, sharp little passes. Here are the changes for you for the New Zealand lineup. As you mentioned, Saunders on, and that switch of position, Palau going out to goal attack to accommodate Mez at the back.
I think I just gave Mez the commentator's perks because as I sang her praises, she then missed the shot. She was on 100% going into this quarter. Just one miss from her now.
And there's just the one change for Singapore. Rashid at centre. And you can see they love this big pass. You can see that Melody Chow was lining it up again. Didn't work that time.
No, Berger was having none of that. She ran hard on the body of So, making sure that the ball went out of court and didn't stay in the possession of Singapore. These girls have got confidence. That pass from Gar into the circle, it was from the centre circle. It was the longest pass, and they just have confidence to let the ball go, which I think is amazing.
On the board in the second quarter. Milicic. Oh, brilliant from Berger. That's trademark, but too close.
It was trademark, and actually what we didn't see off camera behind her, Karaka was already on her way to go and intercept that ball, so she'll be frustrated with her teammate because she was going to come with it and she would have taken it. Unfortunately, Berger got pulled up for contact though. But I think this defensive unit, again, with the changes, they're just settling into it. Karaka there, unfortunate in my opinion as a defender. She went hard, she was, in my opinion, completely clean. She came in front of her attacker, shaking off a bit of a hand injury. But I like to see the fact that she seems confident and she's ready to fly for the ball.
Juan, isn't it? Phoenix Karaka, one of the 6 captains in this New Zealand side. Laura Langman saying yesterday really makes her job so easy. All she has to really do is do the toss.
When I became the captain, I actually thought that was all captains did, and then I realised it's a very tough job. But as Laura has mentioned, the more leaders you have in the team, the easier it is for you to do your job.
And I think that might be one of the key factors that made things so hard for the Silver Ferns last year. Of course, a number of these senior players weren't there, and Katrina Rore, then the captain, and Maria Palau had a lot of leadership on their shoulders alone.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, Rore not being the captain anymore, her game is still flourishing, she can focus more on herself, and she's had an amazing ANZ Premiership season in New Zealand, and I think it's testament to the fact that it's great that she's playing here. She did have a slight injury coming into the tournament, and Taurua backed her and gave her as much time as possible to make sure that she could play here.
Yes, a number of these players have been dropped and come back, and each and every one of them, I think, have said that in a peculiar way, you know, it hurt tremendously, but they went away and they sort of found more to their lives than just netball, made you know, all sorts of changes, and feel that they have come back the better for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think Karaka, you mentioned earlier, she's another player. She's been in, she's been out. Oh, just the near miss there from wing attack against Rore. But yeah, Karaka, she's worked really hard and had those disappointments, and they do hurt, definitely, but you feel them when you come back. It makes it all that more better, and you just feel more confident, and I'm so glad that she's made this World Cup team and can show what she's made of to the world, and not just the New Zealand public.
Oh, here it comes, but she took too long this time, and look, it's a good tactic, but perhaps Singapore perhaps overusing it a little bit. That big pass from the back.
Yeah, I think they are slightly. These defenders, the New Zealand defenders, it's not their first rodeo. So they know once you do something once, you're aware of it as a defender. If you're a good defender, if you get burnt once, you don't want to be embarrassed again. So they're onto it, they're covering that. So Singapore need to come with a different tact, play it short, play it to the circle edge, and try and get the ball into the circle from there.
Instruction, goal defense. Send a third penalty.
Big hands over by both Crampton and Falau. Singapore go wide.
Throw in.
Still working it to the circle edge then, which is much better from Singapore, but still unable to find a way into the circle. Oh, a soft contact there. Berger will be disappointed.
Moving goal defense.
So nothing wrong with what Karaka did. It was Berger moving. So great lean. And oh, no
Throw
luck
in,
again
Singapore.
for Tan. They've got the throw in though. Awkward pass, couldn't keep it in court, and away come New Zealand.
Yeah, that was just from the defensive pressure of Berger. She was nowhere near the ball, but the pressure she caught the ball carrier under just meant that the ball had to go that bit wider, and Singapore was struggling to keep it in court.
You could see Falau, she was looking for that long one in. She and Mez have played together an awful lot, particularly in all the Mystics in the past. Team in New Zealand's domestic competition. But no longer, while Falau now plying her trade for the Adelaide Thunderbirds, and I'm sure she will be feeling very much for her Thunderbird teammate Layla Guskoff. Ruptured Achilles in England's game yesterday.
I think the Adelaide Thunderbirds will be reeling because they lost Beth Cobden. She probably would have been at this competition with England, but ruptured her ACL not too long before selection for the tournament. And now Layla Guskoff, also in their team, has ruptured her Achilles. So when they go back to their competition straight away after this competition, Adelaide Thunderbirds are going to be struggling to figure out who are we going to put in at wing defence and goal defence.
Nicely worked by New Zealand in front of a little gaggle of New Zealand supporters there. An array of various flags. Good work here from Singapore. They really just need to be patient. Oh, beautiful from Karaka.
She read that perfectly.
Well, she came sort of out and over the top of Shawala Rashid.
Yeah, she did a good, it was almost to avoid making contact. Like, she ran that bit further. We see here she runs almost around the back and outside just to make it clean.
I'm sure Rashid probably expected that ball just to fall to her. Pretty reasonable turnover count as far as New Zealand's concerned, not so much Singapore.
Great take there from Goh in that wing attack. A very lifted ball, but she caught it. But the speed of change from the speed of turn from New Zealand to come straight down the court. Mez just giving away an attacking contact.
Advantage obstruction, goal
to lose
shooter.
possession for New Zealand.
So what can Singapore do here?
Advantage obstruction centre. Obstruction centre penalty. Contact shooter.
Now a contact call against the shooter at the other end. So Shin Yi Tan this time. Tan just the one goal so far in this game.
Almost an interception there from Andin. She worked really hard there. She came around the body clearly, but just couldn't get two hands on the ball.
Contact, goal attack.
Yes. Knocking Akila and in the Singapore wing defence as Falau went through.
Obstruction, goal shooter, both out.
And vice captain for Singapore, 64th test today. And that's when it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting that the wing attack is playing very high up the court when Singapore are attacking, and I don't know whether that's because they need her, but actually we need some numbers back in court. So previously the goal defence was making great moves in the centre third, so maybe if Gore hangs back a little bit, Singapore might be able to get the ball through and still have attackers in front of the ball.
Oh, those arms of Rore.
Penalty.
And a little twist of the ankle there to Gore. She fell. Seems fine though, pops back up.
Rore looks suitably admonished.
And we've talked about, great vision there from Blackseeds to find So underneath the post. Beautiful, and the crowd elated with that too. It was a great passage of play.
Just the second goal for Singapore in this quarter. Interesting, we're seeing the Ferns do a lot of this. You'd think they'd be in a shooting position. They're choosing to go back, and I wonder, you mentioned that earlier, Armour, if that's a tactic.
Yeah, I think just practicing recycling the ball. Sometimes a lot of the time you might do it only when you need to, when it's desperate times. But actually, I think just to practice it for every eventuality and making sure the backup players are in the right places. And these games, the Silver Ferns would have known that they're likely to beat Singapore, as much respect as they give them. But it's a good time to practice with different combinations. Also practice tactics that might come into play later in the tournament.
That was just begging to be taken. But too much on the pass from Berger.
That's brilliant. This timing on this fly. She came from pretty much inside the circle to get that. Unfortunate. When a defender makes such a beautiful interception like that, the whole team lift and you want to score from it just to reward them. Berger here again. She's everywhere.
Yeah, she's a player in form. I'm sure she'll be disappointed, though, that the pass to Nez was not accurate. We want to finish the job.
Contact sent to Singapore outside the goal circle.
And Berger, I actually, when I played for Central Pulse in Wellington, Berger was a training partner, and then I knew she had talent, and amazing that she's got the call up to come into the Ferns. Really proud. She's worked really hard, and yeah, hats off to her. We've seen how amazingly she's playing in the tournament so far.
Well, Bailey Nez is doing a good job of making a poor pass look good. Nez had a hand up to help, no help required.
I can tell just watching the Singapore team that they are unfortunately unable to hold that ball in. But I was just saying, I can tell that Singapore have had the influence of a New Zealand coach. When you play against the zone, so when a defender's not on your body, you run up to the body and then turn and open up to receive the ball. It kind of protects the ball and stops any player flying, just like we've seen Berger doing. It stops that happening, and I can tell that Singapore are doing that. And so hats off to Mlicic for coaching them. I can see her influence here with the Singaporean team. Although actually, interestingly, Singapore have had a lot of New Zealand coaches.
Well, they have. I mean, I was going to say, Mlicic following in from Ruth Aiken, who was there for a few years before her.
And I think before her, Kate Carpenter, another New Zealand coach, was there too. So Singapore having a lot of allegiance to New Zealand, I think.
Kate Carpenter, was she at the Pulse when you were there?
She wasn't. She coached the Pulse the very first year of the ANZ Championships, and I was at Pulse then. But the second year I went to Pulse and she left. Maybe she heard that I was coming.
I think she must have. She was tipped off. Oh, that's a beauty! So good, Charmaine So on the strike of the end of the second quarter. Singapore get their third goal. And it has been a tough quarter for Singapore, but that's a nice way for them to finish. At half-time, it's New Zealand leading Singapore 43-8. As Saunders prepares for the centre pass. New Zealand away at the top of the second half, 43-8. They lead Singapore. You can see the changes straight away. One of them there, Bailey Nez out at wing attack.
Interesting, Singapore playing a similar defensive style to New Zealand. A box, a sort of 4 formation, trying to keep New Zealand out of the middle, and I think it worked slightly, but Selby Ricketts still able to get the ball and score under the post.
Didn't stop New Zealand for too long. So, Selby Rickett moving back to goal shoot. Ignacio into the game. The big reject from Casey Korpua. Boy, she swiped it halfway down court.
Great power there, perfect timing, and I feel like that's you get energised from that, and the team will lift.
But Joanna Toe also having something to say. There's the leap.
And Korpua has just grown and grown this season. She had a baby maybe a couple of years ago, and I think this season she's really established herself. Last season had a bit of an injury, but she's come back and she's amazing, and she's almost a Korpua of yesteryear that she used to be before her big, I think, Achilles injury, and she's going from strength to strength, and New Zealand are going to need her this tournament if they are going to win.
Well, she's already announced that, this is her swan song. This is the end. And we've talked about it in previous games. There's a few of the senior Silver Ferns, Korpua, Rore, Langman, who have done just about everything in World Netball. Falau, of course, except win a World Cup.
True.
That's what they're here for.
So it would be fitting if they could win this World Cup. However, Korpua, I believe, has retired once before, and she's back. So.
Well, she says there won't be another coming back. There won't be a second coming.
Or
a third coming.
Potentially there might be some other form of second coming, but for now, Singapore, beautiful interception. Lee alone under the post, and the crowds giving their support and praise for that passage of play.
That's Pei Shan Lee. She's just 19 years old, the new shooter. Big experience though. 16th test today for Singapore. New Zealand pinned down on the sideline.
I think another interesting thing to point out is a lot of teams that are lower ranked don't necessarily get a lot of opportunities to play international test matches. To get the world rankings, you need to play a certain number of matches within a year, and lower ranked teams occasionally struggle for funding and finances, and so it's difficult to play. And I think Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Jamaica, they tend to play consistently, but these lower ranked teams don't necessarily get to have the opportunity to play. And so, as Singapore says, this game might be about experience, and they rarely, I think it was years, we've said at the front of the show, it's been years since New Zealand have actually played against Singapore, so they'll be relishing this opportunity.
44 years. 1975 was the last one, and that's a beautiful pass.
That pressure there from Korpua's jump just, I think, affected the goal attack there, unable to score that one.
So Akila Andon has moved across from wing defence to goal defence, so she's the one now looking for that big long bomb down court.
And Joanna Todd there for Singapore in at goalkeeper. She came out for the fly, so confident to go for those, and it's great and testament, I think, again to the coaching of Milicic in Singapore. Singapore, I've been there quite a few years ago when the World Cup was on, and Sue Gordian used to work with that team, and their playing style has changed since then. I think you can tell there's a New Zealand influence. They're hunting, they're reading the game really well, they're coming out for ball, and they can only grow and develop from here.
Well, it's all about game time, isn't it, for these Singaporean players? Oh, that's well done, Singapore defenders. There's the changes for New Zealand. So the names with a little triangle indicates the fact that they've moved or are new on court.
I think New Zealand, they're a little bit going under pressure under their own style of defence, so interesting that they lost that possession.
And look at Kimberly Lim there on at wing attack. Incredibly experienced player. Test number 81 today.
I hope that man in the crowd wasn't drinking coffee trying to stay awake for the game. There are some good passages of play, and it is still quite interesting.
I'm sure he was needing the coffee to keep up with the game.
Maybe it was the early start. Oh, just to mention there, Karaka had an amazing interception. She almost lifted the ball from beyond the goal attack's hand, so she'll be proud with that. I think in these games, you want to kind of notch up your stats, build your confidence, and Karaka here moves out to goal defence and still performing really well for New Zealand.
Bailey Mare's the nice little feed, and of course we can't really have a New Zealand sports team on court without mentioning that other big sporting event which is getting underway a little bit later today. The Cricket World Cup final at the home of Cricket Lords, England, New Zealand in the final, and of course that's including one of Bailey Mare's flatmates, Jimmy Neesham. So there's always a connection, particularly if you're from New Zealand.
There's probably plenty more connections if you're from New Zealand. Although I have a connection to the English team. I was at Wimbledon last Saturday, in the Royal Box, and I sat next to Joe Root. And I was so confused because I said to him, "Are you not in the middle of a World Cup?" But it's different for cricket. Obviously, the World Cup goes on a long, long time. And so they were there having some fun. He said, "The captain's here, so I think I've got every right to be here." And I'm just amazed that England are in the final. I was very disappointed that I was commentating this netball game because I was torn, because my husband's from New Zealand, and so there's family rivalry going on. So trying to keep abreast with the cricket while supporting, or secretly supporting, the Silver Ferns on behalf of my husband.
I'm confused already. I think clearly, Anna, to make it much easier, you just support New Zealand.
No, definitely still England, but when New Zealand are not playing England, I can give a private cheer. Although in the cricket, sorry, England, New Zealand, I want England.
Well, back on court, over 8 minutes remaining in this third quarter. New Zealand moving out to 53-11.
Brilliant play there. Sorry, there was a screen by Lee, the goal shooter, and the wing attack there. Gore finding her goal attacks behind Kopua, basically. So it was a great piece of play from Singapore, and the crowd celebrating the success there.
Yes, Singapore going a little bit better in this third quarter. Halfway mark. 54-12 New Zealand. 10-4 in this quarter. And this is one thing Milicic is talking about yesterday after their second game. She felt that they have been improving. I mean, they had a loss to Barbados to begin with, and then an even bigger loss to Malawi, but she felt that they were getting better with each experience out on court, and that really is all a coach can ask for.
Yeah, definitely, and I think as you build to the back end of the tournament, the games get harder and harder, and so you just want to build with each consecutive game, and that's what they're doing.
Saunders, oh gee, that seemed like a very generous 3 seconds.
Definitely, I was going to say flirting with the 3 seconds, but New Zealand coming under increased pressure in that circle, so it's not just a walk in the park, they're still having to work for it.
Goal third.
I think we've mentioned in previous matches the defence of New Zealand. It is immense, and Taurua said at the opening of the game, defence wins you championships, and this defence here, and it's not just the circle defenders, it's not just the centre and wing defence, it's a full team. So we can see Mez and Ekenesio involved in the defence, arms over, constant pressure, putting the Singaporean team under intense pressure.
So here's the turnovers for New Zealand. Yes, it was interesting hearing Taurua say that. Oh, great work, Kopua!
It's just an education for defenders if you're watching this game. She's so skilled, and I'll be upset if she does retire because she's still so talented.
Advantage obstruction centre.
Yes, New Zealand has been very fortunate. Now the contact call against Selby Rickett on this occasion. Oh, hard luck, Mez. A thoughtful looking Nolene Taurua. Yes, it was interesting hearing her say she is a defensive person because, of course, in her day, she was a very fine, nippy goal attack.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like coaches always seem to be attacking people. Attackers just get the benefit of everything. They score the goals, they get the glory. And Kopua again coming through. And
what was nice about that, that was all three defenders. Well, it wasn't wing defence, but Saunders at centre, right on the edge of the circle, all combining.
Contact centre, penalty pass. Singapore.
Now Saunders being called.
an interesting attacking contact. Rarely do we see those for centre players in the attack end, but New Zealand, again, just another opportunity for them to work in defence. Corporal having a look, could she come out for that? Decided to stay back on Lee. She was more of a threat.
Oh, that was brave.
Second one.
And Natalie Milicic loves it. Almost like, you go, girl.
Completely under intense pressure. Two of the tallest defenders in the game, arms over, and she is almost taking a step to the side layup.
And that's K-Wei Tall. Totally unfazed. Take a look at this.
Here, under pressure from Corporal, under pressure from Karaka. Great timing, though, on that tip from Karaka.
And I think you could tell Corporal had a bit of a smile on her face, but that would also involve a bit of respect too.
Raw having a go, under building that pressure, and Karaka is the one who comes out with the interception.
Yeah, good umpiring too, just letting it flow.
Yeah, definitely. I think umpiring is a thing that you need to talk about at a world tournament. So New Zealand and Australia, for years, netball has been amazing and the umpiring has been amazing and has had to be. And sometimes you come to a world tournament and you have to be umpired by umpires from different countries, and they have different interpretations of the rules and the styles of play in their country. Our amazing feed there from Mez found Selby Rickett free underneath the post. But umpires, you have to get used to different types of umpires. So in the build-up to this competition, teams would have been in Liverpool or in or around Liverpool, and they would have had different umpires and practice against them. But that's a significant thing that players have to contend with.
Yeah, I think Jackie Misen, their very experienced umpire from England, I think she's enjoying herself.
She definitely is, and I think mentioning umpires again, they don't often get to play umpire against different countries. International Test matches, they do have to fly abroad and umpire different teams, but here in one place, umpiring against different teams day in, day out. We talk about the teams and how much pressure and work they're under trying to play against different styles, but actually umpiring day in, day out, umpiring against different styles of play and different characters and trying to manage those characters on court. It's a tough ask.
Well, I think it's a tough ask too, and I don't know that the financial rewards are great, so I take my hat off to them.
Definitely. So the financial reward's not great, and also sometimes the abuse. Not necessarily from the players. I think the players are quite respectful.
Probably the commentators.
Yeah, I think it's nice. Usually when I play, I have to be respectful and be a leader and occasionally take a deep breath in when an umpire makes a call that I don't agree with. But as a commentator, I can almost say what I like. But yeah, umpires do come under a bit of stick, again from fans as well. But they do an amazing job, and we couldn't play without them.
Well, Singapore have done well, really, in this third quarter. They've just put the brakes on the Silver Ferns scoring. Minute and a half left.
A good chase down off that ball then from Tar. A bit of a miscommunication on the pass or an overkill on the pass. So Singapore's still in possession. We'll see a bit of that amazing New Zealand defence, but see if Singapore can capitalise. They actually are they've got some skills, some interesting ball skills, confidence, taking steps, making decisions, but changing those decisions based on how New Zealand are defending against them.
Oh, easy passage!
Oh.
Well, I think
Beautiful.
Tapaya Selby Rickett wants to rival Gretel Tippett to the title of layup queen. She's done a couple already.
And Laura Langman like that on the bench.
And Selby Rickett also quite an accomplished basketballer. I think the layups actually, though, really began with Irene van Dijk a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think Irene van Dijk, she used to almost step out of court to take her shot, which helped her get away from defenders. I'm not sure why she wanted to do that, because she's, I think, is it 6'3", 6'5", almost didn't need to step away from defenders, but she mastered it, and lots of shooters the world over learned from her. She's a legend of the game and was an incredible player.
Well, we could ask her about it. She's here in the crowd with a tour group from New Zealand. I'm sure she would be as modest as ever. Easy pickings. Karaka didn't know where it had gone.
Oh, Karaka, again, an interception stolen by Kopua. And 1 second, Selby Rickett unable to land that shot.
So the third quarter comes to an end with a flourish. High scoring for Singapore. 26 that quarter to New Zealand, but at the break it is New Zealand with a pretty comfortable lead over Singapore, 63-14. Three-quarter time here on Court 1, day 3. New Zealand leading Singapore 63-14. But look, there's encouraging signs here for Singapore. Their highest score previously against New Zealand was 17. That was the last time they played, and yes, it was a long time ago. But you'd have to think chances are they will better that today. So there you are. There some of the small things that you have to aim for.
Yeah, definitely. When you're in a match like this, you need to look for little goals. So they scored 3 goals in the second quarter, so hopefully they'll score more than 3 this one.
Final quarter underway. Singapore in possession against New Zealand. The Silver Ferns leading 63-14. Langman back on court for New Zealand, and that's a beautiful shot.
It was a hell of a shot, under intense pressure from the lean and jump from Korpua, but still managing to put it away. I have to apologise to any New Zealand viewers because I'm not sure about my pronunciation of Korpua. So my husband's a Kiwi and I know he's going to be telling me off. So apologies for my pronunciation, but maybe you could teach me.
Well, Korpua.
Korpua.
Perfect. And I see you've corrected yourself on Rore, so thumbs up there.
Apologies to her. She's a friend of mine. I never ever call her by her full name, and so I'll just say it's because I've never spoken about her surname. I'm usually a friend and player as opposed to a commentator.
Well, I think you won a few New Zealand hearts a few years ago, Amma, when you spoke after a test match in Māori on, I think it was Māori Language Week. It was not forgotten.
Yeah, that was, I really wanted to, I like embracing the culture of any country that I'm at, and so it was very nerve-wracking at the time. And yeah, I actually got help from Tapaya Selby Rickett, her mom and her sister for that speech.
Well, Charmaine, so on now at goal shoot for Singapore. I can tell you, Singapore leading New Zealand in this quarter, 2-1. But it's a good start for the Singapore side.
Definitely take any wins that you can.
Watson on the bench.
Advantage break, wing attack.
So the New Zealand lineup. Just a couple of tweaks. Through the back of wing defence, Langman. Crampton on at a wing attack. Mears to the bench.
Contact outside.
And then Singapore. Tio back at goal defence, look out for those big bombs of hers. And as I mentioned, Charmaine So on at goal shoot as opposed to goal attack.
Interesting for the Singaporean team. Pei Xiao Li, the taller shooter, she came on. She seemed quite effective, but actually she only shot 1 out of 5, so 50% there. And for a goal shooter, you want them to have a higher load. So she paired with Kwai Wei Ka, who carried a significant amount of the shooting load and shot 5 from 7 at 71%. And so potentially that's why Lee has gone to the bench, because her load wasn't that high.
Not that time for So. Such an experienced player though, Charmaine So.
Oh, Gina Crampton there trying to keep that ball in play because it was going over a third, and so she tried to make contact with the centre forward and flick it back into court just to retain possession.
Oh, beautiful. Karen Berger.
Karen Berger is just running things. She is amazing. She reads play so well here, just muscling her player out of the way, getting 2 hands on the ball and just dominating, showing the umpire, I've won this ball, it's mine, and just playing on comfortably.
Oh, third intercept for Berger. Phoenix Karaka has 5.
I think Karaka just showing why she's been reintroduced to the team. I think whenever any team is selected, people are sometimes dubious, sometimes confident, sometimes great, but so far all the Silver Ferns are standing up. they're showing that they've had a great build-up. They played against the men a couple of times back home in New Zealand. Those 2 games, immense for netball in New Zealand and immense for the men's game. But all the girls here standing up at the moment.
Those games were immense. I mean, a lot of countries here have prepared for this Netball World Cup playing against men, but none have done it the way New Zealand did it this time. Televised, live on television, and the reaction across the country was incredible. It was as though, you know, wow, there's a thing called men's netball, and absolutely there is. And the comments from the men were actually incredibly moving, talking about what it meant to them to be recognised.
Yeah, definitely, and I think men play netball in the UK too, and they don't necessarily get recognised. England over the years have played and practiced against men's team, and I think it was just testament to the forward thinking of Folau there getting a tip and interception.
Well,
sorry,
Ekanasio. She just ran through and thought, oh, the ball.
Yeah, but the men's game doesn't get the recognition that it does, and I think hats off to Netball New Zealand for pushing the boat out and allowing the men to play a test match against the women or 2, and it's been amazing. And the men's netball team here in England have been sending me messages saying that they're amazed, that they're proud, and we play practice club games against them here in the UK in Super League. And I think in the world at the moment, we're pushing for equality. Women are putting their hands up saying, look at me, I'm just equal, I can do stuff. And so I do think it's great for the game. We need to include men because we do want equality.
But who pays for it, Anna?
Well, as long as my wages or my bills get paid, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's a great debate.
Contact on the ball. Advantage ball.
Ekanasio finishes off, and the work of Karen Berger, there you are to look at it. It's the intercepts and the number of deflections and the pickup. So she's got all the tricks of the trade, Karen Berger. Her first World Cup.
A beautiful draw there to the front from Ekanasio, but Crampton finds Selby Rickett hanging there in the back.
Contact, goal defense, send the third and try the pass.
I did also want to add, just on the men's game, those were my views, and I'm glad as a commentator I can really give my views. There are a lot of people who actually are netball purists, and they just want it to be reserved as a women's game. So there's two different boats. I'm not sure if you're happy to give your opinion, Jenny.
Oh, I am, and I have often actually. I think it, all power to the men's game. My problem or my concern is that, netball has enough of a challenge anyway, just developing itself, developing the African countries, getting resources into the Caribbean countries. Then if they have to find money for the men's game, I wonder just if that dilutes the pool really. And I think, when you hear the stories, particularly from the likes of Bongi and Somi in South Africa, the Malawi players, the Zimbabwe players, to what it means to women in those countries. It's a way up and out netball, and I just wonder if it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think it is, but I do think that the women's game is developed that much that at the moment it's above the men's game, and so it will take time for the men to get there. Singapore just scoring another goal to the delight of the crowd. It will take time for the men's game to get there, so the women's game will continue to flourish. But it's interesting that you do mention the African nations. I think also the Asian nations. The Singapore Centre just taking some time. I think a plan's change. But the African nations, the Asian nations, they do struggle with funding, and there's so much talent in Africa and even in the Caribbean. And so if they had the funding and input that some of the top 4 or 5 nations had, amazing to know and see what world netball could be.
Yeah, my take is that I think all the countries struggle with funding, regardless if you're the big netball countries. But we shall have to continue this debate at another time because it's a good one. Halfway mark just gone in this final quarter. 78-17, and if Singapore, or I should say when Singapore score their next goal, it will be their highest tally ever. And what a pass!
Beautiful!
It will come, but it will be their biggest tally yet against New Zealand.
It will, and just you can be exposed. Casey Kopora grimacing a little bit. As a defender, you never want that to happen, but I think the style of defence that New Zealand play, occasionally you can be exposed at the back, and that happens just then.
Where you are.
Terence Pert just cautioning the Singapore wing attack there for persistently breaking the line on the centre part. So coming over the line before the whistle has gone.
Now, will it be this time for Singapore? I think she did well to get that away. And there's
Beautifully timed play there from So.
There it is. Highest score ever against New Zealand by Singapore. They hit 18. And I'm sure that will be a little tick in the box for Nat Milicic and her side. Oh, nice baseline from Ekanasio.
That connection there between Go and So, and finishing it off with the record goal for Singapore. Just great timing between the Singaporean attack end. They're comfortable, patiently building a step change. So is doing really well. She takes the ball and just laying it up and taking that step to pop the defender to drive across the circle to get closer to the post.
Selby Rickett adding one more. Singapore qualified for this World Cup by finishing second behind Sri Lanka in that Asian regional qualifier. And they've got another big competition coming up for them later in the year, the Southeast Asia Games. That's what they really target. They always want to beat their main rivals, Malaysia.
And I think this...
She'll have another crack at this.
I think these games are going to only stand them in good stead for that Asia Cup that they, as you say, they want to perform at that cup. They'd love to win it. Oh, an attacking contact call there from the goal shooter. Frustrating. So as the defender is marking the ball 3 foot away from the ball carrier, the shooter sort of came underneath her, trying to help protect her player from the defender's arms, and the umpire deemed that she is contacted.
That's breaking, wing attack, free pass.
No, careless mistake by the Ferns.
Advantage offside, wing. Obstruction, intimidation, goalkeeper over the face.
Oh, beautiful. Singapore add to their total. 83-20. This is what happened earlier, so watch this. And look, that's interesting. That's the goal shooter being called for the contact against, as you explained, Aboisi, you don't see it called often.
No, but interestingly, it was almost like she didn't really move. So that was a very interesting call. Porpora leant on her, and that's why she actually physically moved back. So she'll be frustrated with that call.
But you see it all the time, don't you? And as a defender, it always can be frustrating.
Yes, usually as a defender, we're getting the horrible calls that we never think that we're going to... we never think that we contact, and we never think that we obstruct. So it's interesting that when an attacker gets an attacking contact as a defender, you're like, yes.
New Zealand march on. 85-20.
Advantage contact center.
Obstruction centre outside. Contact goalkeeper.
So probably be relatively happy with things. A few errors, breaking, footwork, drop ball. But on the whole, I think these are the sort of games you do want to just get through with everyone fit, uninjured, and get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're playing against a team that aren't necessarily experienced in playing against you, you're worried about their timing, if there's going to be collisions and things like that. And so just getting through unscathed is huge. Berger with a tip, Karaka backing her up through court like a hot knife through butter.
And I wonder what New Zealand targeted for this game. They've had 4 pretty even quarters, 20 goals in the first, 23 in the second, 20 in the third, and now 24 in the fourth, so finishing strongly.
And just a shout out to player Selby Rickett, who has played the whole game and is shooting 34th on 35, so she'll be really pleased with that, and I'm sure Tauro will be extremely pleased as well.
Contact, goal defence.
You might have liked to get to 90 as South Africa did yesterday. There's 89.
34 seconds on the clock, still time for that 90.
Ball going the other direction, so they need to get possession here, New Zealand, if they want to crack 90.
And this is good practice and pressure. So in a closer game, it's times like this where you might be 1 down and you need to win the ball back to be able to score. Unfortunately, not this time. There's still 10 seconds. Langman knows she's running to the centre pass. The countdown's on. They know. A great ball over the top. Selby Rickett falling out of court. 2 seconds.
I think they were trying too hard. But a convincing victory to the Silver Ferns, 89-21 over Singapore. But Singapore, I think, will not be too dejected. That is their highest score they've ever had against New Zealand. And they have had the experience of being on court. So marvellous time for both teams. Always like those huddles in netball, just a moment for both teams just to recognise each other, and for many there'll be players who have played against each other for a long time, over a number of years. Great ovation from this crowd. There's a lot of New Zealanders here at the M&S Bank Arena. And they'll be pretty pleased, as will Singapore. They improved each quarter, and that will be good. Let's go down now and hear from the player of the match.
Well, Karen, a strong performance from you, strong performance across the court, really, from the whole team. How was it out there?
Yeah, it was really good. I think we came out with a few things we wanted to sharpen our swords with, just making sure we play a certain style of different variations that we can do. So it was really good. They played really well. They had quite a few screens that was quite difficult to defend, and they did really well. So pretty happy with that.
It's always quite difficult, isn't it, playing a team that you don't meet very often. Going forward, though, it's into the crunch time of the tournament now. How good are this team, New Zealand team, feeling heading into the latter stages of this tournament?
Definitely. I think we had a really good lead up into World Cup as well, and just strengthening some of the combinations. And as you can see out there, we've got quite a few variations depending on who we play against. We can put out the perfect team for that. So feeling really confident with our performance so far.
Well, thanks very much. Well played today.
Well, Karen Berger, yes, well pleased with her own performance. Here are all the numbers.
Yeah, so New Zealand, 91% shooting average, brilliant. And 98 shots in one game of netball, that's also great. Here, the interceptions, so 11 to Singapore's 1, a telling stat for this game.
In the end, 89-21, New Zealand. Arlene Taurua there, you can see. Small smile on the face, and she will be pleased with how things have gone. She came into these 3 games, and Singapore also. So let's now take this chance to hear from the Singapore coach, Nat Milicic.
Natalie, pre-match you spoke about the importance of enjoying the experience out on court and achieving some personal aims. Did your players do that for you?
Look, I think we really did. I think the players came off with big smiles on their face and sort of said that they'd just played against their idols. And our theme this week is idols, and a couple of them have chosen the Silver Ferns players as their personal idols. So to play up against them today and do what they did, I thought they did very, very well.
Big positive as well, that being your highest scoring game of the tournament.
Yeah. So I think we actually did some really nice things out there, and I think getting everyone out on court and just being able to, as I say, front up against the Silver Ferns was just an amazing opportunity, and we were very excited to be able to do that today.
You came into this tournament as the lowest ranked side internationally. Looking ahead to these next few matches in Group E, how important is it for you to build and improve that ranking?
So our goal is actually improving on our 15th place, as I say, at our last World Champs. We're still aiming to do that. So every game we've got little things that we're trying to get a little bit better, so that when we are playing those next few matches, when we go into the second pool, that we've done some of the things that we want to do better when we're actually against those teams that we can challenge with. Yeah.
Well played, so good luck for the rest of the competition. I'll just bring in the head coach of New Zealand. Caroline, I mean, you can't really have many complaints after that performance, can you?
Oh, look, there were some areas that I thought that we did really well, and we wanted to work on some set pieces, and at times that was all right, but overall really happy, and day 3, so that's great.
Was it one of those games for you as well that was important to get through without any hiccups and, most importantly, no injuries?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a bonus, knowing that the lows that's going to happen over the week, and we're really mindful about the bodies and what needs to happen, so really happy that there wasn't any injuries.
Looking strong, front to back, lots of combinations out there on court, got all your shooters out today. How confident are you feeling that your team can perform really well going into the next stage?
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the most pleasing things, is that we've got really versatile players and they can play different positions, and slowly as the competition is starting to progress, we're seeing, I think, combinations that are starting to form. So that's definitely a strength, and we just got to keep building as we head into the business end.
Thanks very much, Robin, today.
Thank you.